Chapter 13. The Landing Party. Never Forget. Tales from the Past. The ship was barely able to make it to the spaceport in one piece. If Wanda wasn't cursing and yelling about trying to get something to work, Ree was creating havoc, breaking something that still did. The dock patrol was preparing to have emergency vehicles present, and that notion alone made Devon worry more about their situation. His idle thoughts wrapped themselves around the most horrid of notions. His first flight into space, he would make it all the way to a brand new world, and then die in a horrible crash. The crazy irony of it all brought back those painful memories of his past. The ship began to shudder some more. Devon eyed Kaya as she appeared to have control over what was going on, but even that seemed like a temporary aspect. The ship teetered to one side, then the other, as if they were bounding along the rough waves of the deep ocean. The hangar loomed straight ahead. Their approach was too fast for Devon's taste, his arms growing sore from holding himself in his seat. The ship dropped a few feet, giving the quick sense of weightlessness. Devon's stomach grew queasy. He wanted to see the end, as his eyes could not be torn away from the inevitable fate that awaited them. With one last lurch forward, Kaya pulled back with all of her might on the flight stick. The ship slowed, gliding down toward the ground below. The landing claws gripped the solid floor, stabilizing the rest of the ship. Sharp metallic groans could be heard throughout the beaten metal body as it settled down for the last time. The engine noise decreased. Air pressure flowed throughout the vents. They were safe. Kaya breathed out a sigh of relief. A hand touched her on the arm. She turned to Devon as they gave each other thankful nods, noting the small miracle they had just been through. "Good job," he told her. "Thanks for getting us here in one piece." She patted his hand in appreciation. "Thanks for finding those guns," she reminded him. "You bought us enough time to get help." "Really?" he asked in surprise. Kaya smiled, her eyes flashing in a way that made him blush. "Come on," she told him. "Unfortunately, the hard part's just starting." Devon was speechless, but after a second he agreed. He could only imagine what Brawn would look like. An image of a big, beastly man with razor teeth that would bite the head off anyone who opposed him popped into his brain. But then, that would not be someone he could picture Kaya dating. The outer hatch opened as Kaya led the way. She helped Ree exit the ship, her hands bandaged from the incident earlier. Devon followed. He peered around one last time inside the ship, noticing that someone was missing. Where is Wanda? Popping his head into the back cabin, Devon looked to see if she was there. It was empty. Wanda was gone. Devon turned back and walked down the ramp as he caught the sight of many armed guards and technicians waiting for him to disembark. A high-ranking officer stood off to the side of Kaya and Ree. Devon approached them. The look that Kaya gave him told him that the situation was not good. "Is this the last of them?" the deck officer asked. "Check the ship. I want a full analysis of what happened on this little venture. I'm sure the delegates here will be most forthcoming in their efforts to fill in the blanks." The deck officer's demeanour was very shrewd as Devon took to Kaya's side. "What's going on?" Kaya turned around, making sure the officers were not listening. "They think we hijacked the ship," she whispered harshly. Devon sighed in defeat. "But that's not true," he proclaimed in a hush. "And where's Wanda?" "I don't know," she quietly replied as the deck officer turned around. He eyed the two with a look of suspicious distrust. "I suppose you wouldn't mind telling me why this tow ship was trying to bill the Institute, do you?" Kaya narrowed her eyes in anger. "Yes, I do," she berated. "Because the ambassador's office didn't pick up the tab, that's why. My father will not be pleased when he hears about what's been happening to 2 employees of the IGA. "Former employees," announced a voice from the side. Kaya froze. That was not the voice she wanted to hear right now. Devon turned to look. He was rather surprised by what he saw. Braum was a big man, broad-shouldered and at least 4 inches taller than Devon. His complexion was darker than most of the others. He walked confidently, showing off the prominence of his character. His short blonde hair was stylishly groomed to the side, showing that he was very respectable in his presentation. But then, he probably respected himself enough to show no less. His dark blue flight suit was decorated at least 3 times over anyone else in the hangar, including the deck officer. Kaya pursed her lips together, and they grew tighter the closer Braum approached. "What is the meaning of this, Braum?" she reproached him, her temper starting to flare. The corner of Braum's lip twisted up, as he apparently enjoyed seeing the fire burn inside her. Devon watched the exchange between the two. He was getting the sense that there was a lot more going on between the two underneath their conversation. Their tone and the way they looked at each other thickened the air with the animosity they held for one another. The underlying suppression of feelings between the two was just screaming to be released. "You are no longer employees of the IGA," replied Braum, his voice cool as ice. "The commander wishes to speak to you. I'm sure everything will become clear once he's updated you on our situation." Kaya and Ree turned to each other in confusion. "What situation?" Kaya asked. The deck officer stepped up, making sure not to overstep Braum, who was clearly the senior officer present. "After the investigation, of course," he reminded the pilot. Braum stared him down. "They don't need to be present for the investigation now, do they?" stated Braum. The intensity of his demeanour laid a silence to the immediate area. The officer paused as his mind raced with thought, contemplating what would happen to him if he gave the wrong answer. "No, sir," he replied. "The commander's orders come first." Braum nodded in satisfaction before turning to address the wingman at his side. "Escort these 2 to the commander's office right away," he ordered him. The wingman nodded, motioning in the direction for Kaya and Ree to go. Devon followed behind, but a large hand crossed his chest, not letting him move any further. "This one stays," added Braum, slowly turning to look into Devon's eyes. Devon stared him down. He was accustomed to people looking at him like that from his old football days. No amount of threats, growling, spitting or yelling could make Devon flinch. Yet he also knew when he was physically outmatched, but he was never one to be easily outwitted. "He's with me, Braum," pleaded Kaya. "He needs my help." Braum turned to her with an irritating look of cockiness. "Oh, he'll be fine, but the commander specifically asked for the 2 of you. I'll just be babysitting Junior here until you get back." Braum gave her a confident smile, which did not make Kaya feel any better. Devon put a reassuring hand on her shoulder, trying to ease her frustrations. "I'll be fine," he told her. "Trust me." Kaya glanced between the two, as only her imagination could tell what kind of trouble they could get into while she was gone. She bowed her head and nodded. Looking up, Kaya gave Braum one last glare before turning to Devon. Reaching out, she grabbed his head in her hands and pushed her lips up against his. There was a swift murmur that ran through the crowd as Braum watched in mild amusement. Devon's eyes tried to focus on her as his mind could not believe this was happening. Kaya released her lock, patted him on the chest, and then glowered at Braum one last time before following the wingman away. Devon gulped. "Oh, I am in so much trouble now," he thought. He watched Kaya disappear among the crowd. As soon as she did, a large hand reached out and grabbed his shoulder. "Come on, lover boy," ordered Braum. "You're coming with us." Devon took a step and then thrust his shoulder away from Braum's grip. "Lay off, will you?" he huffed. The big man leered back a step as the growing crowd gasped at his defiance. "Well, what do we have here?" played Braum, aiming his comments to his pilots. "A tough guy. Everyone, tough guy has arrived." There was a smitten of chuckles throughout the crowd. Devin glanced around at the many faces that were now surrounding him. Something was telling him that he would not be getting any support from anyone here. He was alone in this confrontation. Turning back to Braum, Devin faced off the man as he tried to keep his cool wits about him. "Listen, meathead," warned Devin. "I don't know you, and up till now I have no beef with you, so ease up already." A few pilots took a step back, their ears not believing what they were hearing. "So, you think you're better than me, is that it, Earthling?" retorted Braum. "Kaya brings you here, so that makes you an all-powerful badass now, does it?" Devin looked him in the eye. "Yes, it does," he replied. The other pilots stood in awe. No one had ever challenged Braum's ego like this before. "I think you and I need to settle something," Braum told him, pointing a finger into Devin's chest. The big man turned and headed for the far side door. Devin shook his head, not quite believing his luck. First shadow ghouls, and now this. He stood there for a second, but that did not last, as the crowd began following Braum. Several arms began to push Devin, giving him an escort to his inevitable destination. The door opened when Braum approached it. He stood off to the side and waited. Devin hesitated as he looked at the big man once again before entering. As soon as he did, Braum turned to address the remaining crowd. "Sorry, boys, this is a closed session," Braum told them. A roar of disapproval rumbled throughout the hall. They were anticipating a great battle between these two. It had been forever and a day since someone had confronted the top pilot of the Altarian forces. Braum entered the room, locked the door behind him, and turned to face Devin. Devin was standing at the other end of what appeared to be a small conference room. There was a long table that stretched down the length of it. There were many small chairs which lined its sides, leading to a larger one at the head. Devin tried to maintain some calm, despite the anxiety pushing up from his gut. He could not recall the last time he had been in a serious fight like this, and he did not have time to reflect upon the matter either. Raising his fists, Devin began to prepare for what was to come. The big man just stood there, looking perplexed at the human. "What are you doing?" Braum asked strangely. Devin's eyes wandered for a second. "You wanted to fight me, didn't you?" He spoke, caught unaware by Braum's sudden change in character. Braum waved his hand in the air. "No, I don't want to fight you," he retorted. "If that were the case, I'd have the whole damn fleet in here watching me whoop your ass." Devin was shocked. More than that, he could not believe it. But after a second, it did start to make sense to him. No sense in having an oversized ego when you cannot show it off to the ones who matter. Devin agreed with the idea as he slowly lowered his fists. "All right," he said. "What do you want then?" Braum pointed to a chair. "Sit, let's talk," he stated, his voice calm again. Devin was starting to become more afraid of Braum now than he was before. He sat down, not knowing if maybe this was still some sort of trick. Braum appeared sincere enough, but even that could have been a facade. The big man sat down next to Devin, his body easing back into a relaxed state. "You and Kaya, you're dating, right?" The question caught up to Devin. Was that all he wanted to know? "What?" he asked in return. "No, I've only known her for a few days. She is trying to help me find a way back home. No, we're just friends." Devin took a quick breath as he prayed to God that they were only friends. Braum smiled, nodding with relief. "That's good," he said, satisfied with the reply. "It's been a long time since I've seen her. As you may or may not know by now, our last meeting was not a good one. You see..." Braum hesitated as he looked at Devin expectantly. "Devin." Braum nodded appreciatively. "Devin," he replied. "You see, Devin, I'm an ambitious man.
always have been. My career has been my life, as well as my image, as you can obviously see. For a time, well, I guess Kaya just could not see me for who I was. Now, seeing her again, well, I guess I don't know about myself anymore. You understand, don't you?"
Devon nodded at first, but then shook his head.
"Well, that's probably just as well," added Braum. "At least you're being honest with me. I admire that. Not many around here have the courage to stand up to me, except you. I think that's what Kaya sees in you. If I had known now what I did then, maybe things would have turned out different for us. Me. I meant me."
Devon watched the almighty Braum stammer while talking about his feelings. He leaned forward, intrigued by what he was hearing. "So, despite the macho egomaniac show," surmised Devon, "you do have feelings for her after all. You love her." Braum flinched at the word. "Of course I love her," he replied. "I mean, loved. Yes, loved." Devon shook his head and sighed as he watched Braum's relentless struggle within his own ego. "Well, maybe it's time to put the ego to rest," suggested Devon, "and tell her how you feel." Braum's stare fell from him as his mind was trying to make sense of the situation. "But she kissed you," he replied. "Obviously she's—" "Still in love with you," interrupted Devon. "You saw the way she looked at you after what she did. Believe me, I've kissed some women in my life, and none are more shocking than the ones who do it out of spite." Braum sat back in deep thought. Had she done that just to get at him? If so, then maybe she did still have feelings for him after all. "And you're okay with that?" "Hey, she's beautiful and all," replied Devon, "but her temper is a bit much for me. Besides, I think you can handle Rhea a lot better than I can." Braum smiled as he almost forgot about her. Maybe you're right," spoke Braum. After a few seconds of reflecting on the subject, he shook his head and stepped back into character. "But that's for another time. There's something else that needs our immediate attention. What I really wanted to talk about is, and I was hoping you could help me understand what's been going on. Do you know what caught the guards' attention when you've arrived here on the planet?" "No, what?" Braum turned around, making sure they were alone. "It seems as if you've encountered an unknown hostile that's gotten the brass pretty uptight," he muttered. "I've never seen them so worried before, hence the cold welcome you received when you landed." "I noticed," replied Devon. "I thought things would be a little easier when we arrived." "I wish they were. Alterra has been put on high alert. There have been some pretty erratic events going on in the galaxy. Something about dimensional shifts, temporary holes in space, or some kind of nonsense. Things have been getting pretty strange. The outer colonies have also encountered unknown hostiles, similar to the ones that assaulted your ship. Those strange green ships have also been attacking freighters without warning. It's as if the old stories of Armora were happening all over again." Devon sat in fascination. He was a sucker for a good story of legend, most of his favourites coming from the ancient histories of his own world. "Go on," prodded Devon. Braum continued his thoughts. "I remember back when I was a kid, hearing stories of the great Armora, and how she fell out of the sky to defeat the darkest armies ever seen. Alterra was a farming colony back then, barely even knowing their own world, let alone what lay beyond the stars. But something happened. I can't remember the whole story. Something about the whole universe apparently upending itself as the barrier between the sky and the ground disappeared. An all-out war fell upon us as an army of green death laid siege to our lands. But Armora came down from the spirit realm, defeated the enemy, and closed the gate, saving our world from certain doom. She became the first ruler of Alterra. Everyone worshipped her, even after her death. But that ideal faded during the dawn of technology. before we truly knew what lay beyond the borders of our own sky. Devin sat in awe. Braum was very passionate in the telling of his story, as his voice carried it out like a minstrel's tale. "So how old is this legend?" "Oh, I don't know. As old as our people, I guess. Maybe 10,000 years or so?" Devin pulled himself back in thought. That was a long time to carry down a story without some embellishment to it. He wondered how close to the actual event the story really was. Braum clasped his hands together, snapping Devin out of his momentary thoughts. "Well, I guess fun time is over," finished Braum. "If you're to join our ranks, you're gonna have to take a crash course in technical piloting skills and pray for a chance that you can fly on my wing." Devin blinked at him in disbelief. "You're kidding. I can't do that now." Braum stood up. "Right now, Kaya and Rhea are being assigned to duty on one of the ships in the fleet," he stated. "If you want to see them again, you're going to have to do what I say and hope you get assigned with them. I've got some pull, so your chances will be pretty good. If you can survive my course, that is." Devin's whole body began to shiver. For some reason, learning to fly a spaceship became a thrilling idea. It took a tremendous amount of courage and fortitude for him to even step foot on a plane as a kid for so long. Even more so learning to fly one years later. But a spaceship? Just the idea began to tantalize his dreamful thoughts. For now, at least, he could follow someone like Braum. A small thought flashed in as he began to realize why so many others looked up to him. He was an inspirer. "Okay," replied Devin, feeling confident about the proposal. "When do we start?" Braum grinned as he shot up from his chair. "Right now, rookie," he commanded, the ego coming back at full force. Devin stood up as they made their way toward the exit. Braum unlocked the door. It slid open to reveal the great sea of people who were waiting outside in anticipation. Devin saw the mass of pilots, technicians, and officers hoping to catch a glimpse of the results from Braum's fisticuffs. Word definitely travels fast here, he thought. "My friends," Braum addressed the crowd with a grand smile. "After setting things straight with our friend here," he grabbed at his jaw, "and a courageous fight, I have declared that Devin has completed his initiation into our ranks. He will be joining Altera's finest." The crowd cheered, many of them now congratulating Devin and patting him on the back. Their change in demeanor toward him gave Devin the sense that they really had no clue about what was going on in their ranks. "All right, scumbags, it's time for Devin to take a crash course in basic fighter training, or as we like to call it, Big Daddy Ass Whoopin' 101. Everyone roared with excitement as the mob began to make its way down the hall. Devin stutter-stepped, trying not to fall down in utter shock as Braum grabbed Devin by the shoulder. "Welcome to the team," he told him. Devin smiled a bit, but that faded, along with anything else that was starting to make sense to him. "Gee, thanks," mumbled Devin.